chair. That center. The red issue that taken on the other. Moderator. Hard for me to have I will probably just need that one. Second.
Please, everyone sit down. We have a quorum that's been verified by the secretary. Welcome to the February full board meeting of Community Board 7 in Manhattan. I want to thank St. Paul and St. Andrew's Church for their hospitality tonight in welcoming us yet again. And I would like a motion to adopt the agenda. Seconded. Thank you. Raise your hand, please, to vote aye.
Aye.
Anybody no? With that, the agenda is adopted. I am required to announce those board members who have received waivers tonight to attend remotely. Can we please have a quiet? Carey Alexander due to travel, Semer Reddy due to illness, and Rachel McLaren due to illness. I'd like to remind committee co-chairs to complete their nominations for public members. We've received so far a total of 20 applicants. Applications can be found in your board member workstations on the Google Drive. Please alert me to your nominations by Friday, February 21st, so I can appoint the successful applicants by the end of the month, which is what we have promised them. If you have any questions at all on the process for doing so, please reach out to me. Thanks. We're holding an election a little bit later tonight for the recently approved position of Technology and Communications Officer. We will be voting on our phones, but not posting individual votes on the screen, as our practice with elections is to keep individual votes private on the night of the vote, but available in the office at a later point. I'd like to turn the meeting over to our treasurer, Kevin Reevy, who will bring you some very good news. Thanks.
Thank you, Beverly, and good evening, everyone. So if you recall, when I presented our fiscal year 2025 budget, and keep in mind our fiscal year for 2025 ends June 30th, 2025, and began on July 1st, 2024. Our budget was originally $432,000. The good news that Beverly was referring to, we got an additional $8,000. So our budget for this fiscal year is $444,000 in total. And this has been allocated totally to other than personal services. So this are to cover expenses related to HVAC, plumbing, technology expenses, and any expenses that we incur in terms of renting space for our full board meetings. If you look at the second column, our expenditures, through January 6th, so roughly the first 6 months of our fiscal year, include a little over $240,000, leaving a little under $200,000 left. If you recall, we have some restricted items. So Xing out those restricted items, we have approximately $157,000 to spend for the remainder of the fiscal year or the remaining 6 months. Moving along to the fourth column, we tried to project salary expenses for our staff, for the board, and that's roughly $134,000. In addition, the second to the last column, we've projected expenses that are not related to salaries, not related to rental of our district office, and that's roughly $4,500, which leaves us, looking at the final column, a little over $18,000 of funds to work with, of which we have a little under $9,000, which has been dedicated to other expenses that are not salaries, that are not rent. So that would be HVAC issues that we've incurred in the office, the district office, plumbing issues, as well as technology expenses. So we are much better off today than we were a week ago.
Thank you. I know that the spreadsheet that Kevin has been speaking from was very hard to see. We'll make sure that's circulated to board members so you can see the numbers yourselves. But we were really looking at a dearth of funding for other than salaried expenditures, and we're worried about making it through the end of June. So this has been a huge relief. Let's put it that way. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Max for the district manager's report.
Oh, Beverly, you might have questions first, actually.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you have a microphone?
Can you hear?
Yep.
Is that
Yes.
okay? Thanks. Very quickly, it's my understanding that we are not paying rent in the building now and haven't for a bit, but will there be discussions and projections of if we have to pay rent and or move? Because we have had a particular arrangement in this building, that building on Fifth Street for a long time. So I'm just wondering if the very able treasurer, whom I truly respect to be able to give such a clear report, if in general, this is not something that needs to be handled in the next weeks and months by the officers and indeed by the city of New York to help us have a place to be and maybe have to pay a considerable rent.
Kevin, if you want me to.
Let me take that. We currently do pay rent. We were initially in the space for a number of years while the building was in the Mitchell-Lama program. It no longer is, and at that point, rent was paid on our behalf by the city. It's part of the funds we do not have access to that are restricted, that are in our budget, that cover that rent amount. We have been working with city agencies around trying to get both a lease renewal, which we do not yet have, we're month to month. And if that can't be done in an expedited way, a search for new space, and we're proceeding on both fronts. All of that is in the mix at the moment, and we will certainly keep the board apprised of any developments. Can we move to the district manager's report, Max?
Sure. Thanks, Beverly. Thanks for covering that quite well, because it's been pretty stressful on our end to make sure that's paid. But to confirm, Ethel, we pay, I think it's about $7,500 a month. Anyway, so mostly I was going to reiterate what Beverly says, and that's we are looking to make sure for any committees that haven't yet to submit your public member applications to Beverly, your recommendation for her to give final approval by the next week on the 14th. And then my only other note that I had this month was if you're an elected official, please try to stick to the 2-minute mark. We've gotten a lot of comments lately and we want to stick to that and be timely. And that's my report. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Roberta Semer, co-chair of our Budget and Strategy Committee, to give you an update on the district needs and budget priorities process.
So we received a report back from the OMB on the 26th, I think, of the agency responses to our budget requests. We have until the 17th to give them our letter. I am on Thursday, Alex from our office and I are going to update our database, which will then enable me to send materials to each of the committees that have requests. In the meantime, I'm reaching out to each of the committee chairs to discuss what the responses are. Several of the responses were totally inadequate. Some of the responses were quite good, so it's a mixed bag. And I thank everybody, but we have a little under 2 weeks to turn this around.
So please, when Roberta reaches out to you, please, committee co-chairs, can you expedite your responses to her because we are on a tight timeline. Next, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes from last month. Can you get a microphone?
I just wanted to make a suggestion moving forward that right now the minutes say motion instead of the word vote. And a motion is actually a formal proposal. It's really the resolution. So it would be better and more accurate if you said vote in the future rather than motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Thank you, Barbara. We can address that in the coming months. Appreciate your input. I'd like to then close out this portion of the meeting and announce the community session and turn the meeting over to the staff. Is it?
Yep, we're here.
Who is going to be announcing speakers?
I will.
Thank you, Jesse.
Sue
please.
Peters.
Please announce the first ones. And please, speakers, go to the microphone there. And please try to keep your comments to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sue Peters. I have more information about what our government is not telling us and protecting us.
Can you speak up, please, and slowly? Thank
Okay.
you.
Lloyd's of London is a major international insurance company. In 2015, it announced it would not cover health damage caused by electromagnetic radiation, such as our cell phones. They said they would exclude and will not make any payments, will not incur any costs and expenses, will not reimburse you for any loss, damage, etc., and will not pay any medical expenses. Number two, another of the world's largest insurance companies, Swiss Re, recommended to other insurance companies to write in exclusion clauses against paying compensation for illnesses caused by continuous, long-term, non-ionizing radiation exposure, such as cell phones. And the third thing is that there's an Austrian company that last year, its name is AUVA. It has 4.3 million policyholders, and it carried on research into the health effects of electromagnetic fields from mobile phones at levels well below
30
current
seconds.
exposure limits. They found three things. Confirmed that DNA breaks are caused by this radiation, and it found that increasing changes of the electroencephalogram occurred 5 to 10 minutes after the start of exposure and lasted 50 minutes after the end.
Thank you.
of
That's time.
exposure. And one last sentence.
Thank you.
Jennifer Czar, she's online.
Did we do that?
Hello. Good evening. I'd like to share a few announcements from the St. Agnes Library. We're on Amsterdam between 81st and 82nd. Here's a few announcements. Along with several other New York Public Library locations, we partner with accredited social work colleagues across the city to connect members of the community with student interns who can help those in need. Find information about essential services, including housing, food assistance, legal assistance, and medical and mental health information. So our intern is available to meet with patrons on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5 to 7, and Saturdays, 12 to 5. So patrons can call or stop by the library to make an appointment. Also, our next book sale is March 22nd. We accept book donations Monday through Saturday, 1 to 4. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
Ira Deutschman.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to share some good news. I'm one of the co-founders of an organization called Upper West Side Cinema Center. We're a not-for-profit that is currently in the process of buying the former Metro Theater. And we are planning on putting a 5-screen cinema complex inside the Metro. It's very rare that we get an opportunity to do 4 separate but related things with one initiative. The fact that we're going to be able to restore the beautiful facade of the Metro Theater to what it originally was. We're going to be bringing back cinema to the Upper West Side, which is right now considered a cinema desert. We're going to be creating a welcoming community arts center because there's going to be a restaurant in the lobby that's going to be open to the street. And then we're going to help, I hope, to restore the commercial corridor on Broadway in the 90s and in the 100s, which I think is desperately in need of that. Just thought I'd mention, the quick update. Some of you have probably read about our initiative, but the quick update is that we have raised all the necessary funds to buy the property. We're hoping to close the deal by no later than April 11th at this point. And it's worth mentioning that the money that we got was a combination of grants that came from both government as well as from family foundations and from over 350 individuals who live in the neighborhood who actually donated to the cause. And just a couple of quick thank yous to people who have been really helpful to us. One of them is Doug Kleiman, who is on our advisory board, but also Brad Hoylman, Michael Lasher, Mark Levine, Sean Abreu, and Gail Brewer all were involved in helping us get to this stage.
That's time. Thank you.
Let him wrap it. One last sentence, okay, is simply the fact that once we get the building in our hands, we will be back to talk with the various committees here about all sorts of plans in terms of what we're going to be doing inside the theater. And you'll get a lot more information if you go to our website, which is uwscinema.org. That's it.
You said that you have the funding.
Wait, get a mic.
I don't.
Is it okay to interject?
You said that you had the necessary funds to purchase the property. Do you also have the funds to do all the renovations and the establishment of the theaters, et cetera, all the operational?
It's a good question. And the answer is no, of course we don't. However, what I'm going to tell you is that have already started that fundraising effort and we're already getting there. It's going to be a road. The construction is probably going to take 2 years. That's the estimate. And obviously we're going to be fundraising all through that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's go to Hannah Wienerman. She's here in person.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Wienerman from Congressman Jerry Nadler's office. It's been a very difficult month. We'll just throw it out there. Okay. We've heard from a lot of folks in the community across the district. People are understandably very concerned. And I will say this, that Congressman Adler is doing all that he can to fight and protect our district and the country from especially our most vulnerable citizens and residents. At this time, we're just going to continue to urge that you make your voices heard. We got hundreds of calls over the past few days from people, and we see that hearing from constituents directly does affect what people do. You know, we put pressure on the Trump administration. You put pressure on the Trump administration about after the unconstitutional order to pause all federal spending. And then there was a rollback. He had to roll back the order when it created chaos nationwide and in New York City. So we're going to continue to put pressure as we see unprecedented attacks on our democracy and our institutions. Likewise, after the threatening tariffs over the weekend against Mexico and Canada, that would have dramatically driven up costs for all Americans, caused an outrage, he backed down. So we do have recourse in the courts. However, Congressman Nadler will continue to work as a senior member of our Judiciary Committee to fight back, including the firing of civil service employees, the purge of the FBI and inspectors general, birthright citizenship, and of so much more that we value here in the district and across the country. This week, Republicans are voting on a bill that would end the state's ability to put bans on fracking like we have in New York. Trump wants to open millions of acres of pristine land to drilling. In contrast, this week, Congressman Adler will be reintroducing the Make Polluters Pay bill, which would hold big oil accountable for their damage on the environment and is continuing to fight for a greener climate. Democrats are also introducing legislation to prevent unlawful access of highly confidential and personal information by Elon Musk's henchmen. I will just say that Congressman Adler is closely following the impacts specifically in our district that from potential ICE raids to changes in access to healthcare. Yesterday, he tweeted his support for the New York Attorney General's call to hospitals to continue gender-affirming healthcare for minors. So with the Republican trifecta in power, and sorry, I'm just taking up a quarter of a second because I think we need to end on something hopeful. So with the Republican-led trifecta in power, it'll be very difficult to thwart all of Trump's disastrous decision, but we are fighting on all fronts and we won't stop. Representative Nadler will continue to raise alarms through legislation, litigation, and speaking out for what is right. So as there's a lot of information flying. You know, we try to send newsletters, but sometimes what we draft at 9 a.m. is irrelevant by 3 p.m. We're going to continue pushing out information as quickly as we can through our newsletters, through our Twitter, through our office. So feel free to keep calling. Our office is 212-367-7350. Feel free to email me at hannah.wienerman@mail.house.gov. We need to hear from you. I hope that next month I have more uplifting things to say, but we just wanted to make sure that we are here and know that Congressman Adler is fighting for us. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's go to Eric Cuello. And Eric is on Zoom. Okay, maybe he's not ready. Let's go to Mariana then.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miranda Brodheim from Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Just want to give a few updates from the past month. In January, we have the headlining debut of De La Soul on January 17th. We welcomed several families from NYCHA. It was a big packed out house. It was a really great celebration. And then this past Saturday, we had our Lunar New Year celebration where we welcomed 3,000 community members for a full day of programming, totally free for kids, teens, families, and various different adults. We're pleased to announce that Jonathan Hayward will continue as the Renee and Robert Belfer Music Director of the Festival Orchestra of Lincoln Center through 2029. And now he's been added the title and role of Artistic Director. We've also announced our Big Umbrella Festival, which will run from April 4th to April 20th. And that welcomes kids, teens, and adults for a dynamic series of programming over 3 weekends for designed with and for neurodiverse audiences. Coming up, we have a series of programs. We're celebrating Black History Month, showcasing and highlighting Black artistry and excellence. In the atrium in February, we have a family programming performance, the multi-instrumental quartet Invoke on February 15th. We've got a Salsa Vaya dance night with Charanga 76 on February 21st. And we will be having a Create-a-thon on February 23rd for young adults and teens where they can make their own gong ensembles. All of this can be found in the Lincoln Center Presents flyers I have in the front. Just also want to let you know our Lincoln Center Moments Spring 2025 registration is now open. That is designed for individuals with dementia and their caregivers. They'll start in March. And then lastly, American Songbook kicks off this month on February 11th with History's Persistent Voice with Julia Bullock. And the theme for this year is Singers Outsiders. If you have any questions about those programs and more, feel free to find me afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Now we're going to circle back to Eric Cuello.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that I'm virtual. Miss you all. I know that Sawaiba would be happy to be here, but she's under the weather, so you get me. Just really quickly want to remind folks that the MBPO Community Board application is now open. So please, if you are a member who is on an expiring term and is looking to continue your service, please make sure you reapply. The deadline for that is February 28th. Also, for all the folks in attendance, if you're looking to join your board, we are happy to review your application as well. So that also goes for new applicants. Again, the application is February 28th. That's the deadline. And the application is located on our website. That's Manhattan, B as in borough, P as in president, .nyc.gov. Quickly want to shout out a couple of events that our office has. The borough president, in partnership with Cool Kids Inc. and the New York Urban League, is going to be hosting a Black History Month event. That's going to be on February 18, 2024 at 233 West 125th Street. Space is limited, so please reach out via our website to sign up. And as a save the date, the borough president will be giving his State of the Borough address. That'll be Sunday, March 23rd at 2 o'clock at LaGuardia High School. Capital funding application for all of our nonprofits and those who seek funding from our office is now open. This application window closes for us on Thursday, the 20th of February. So please just be mindful. If you're interested or know someone who's interested, please connect them. We also have some information sessions on our website in case you want information about what types of organizations apply for funding. And then finally, I'll try to be very quick, just for something that I know board members have been interested in, as well as our district managers and chairs. We're hoping the next few weeks to be releasing information for all of you about when the actual term limits expiration will be coming. So we hope to have that for you in the coming weeks. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thanks, Eric. Let's see if Senator Hoylman Siegel is here yet. I was told he is, but we can circle back. Okay, if not, let's go to Julia Mayanza.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. This is Julia Mayanza. I'm a community engagement coordinator for the area at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I have a few announcements tonight about some indictments, some programming, and some legislation. I want to start off by talking a little bit about discovery reform, something you may have remembered me speaking about a year and a half ago, but it's kind of in the news again. And for context, discovery relates to records and documents and materials that our office is required to turn over to defense counsel for them to fully understand the case against the defendant. And in 2020, those laws, the discovery and bail reform laws, the scope of discovery was broadened to include the scope to all materials that may relate to a case regardless of its relevance. And while we agree with the intent of the reforms for the defendants to have the full scope of information about them and their lawyers to be able to prepare accordingly, we found that this change has led to case dismissals unnecessarily that have impacted public safety. We currently finalized a one-pager on these recommendations and findings related to the current discovery status. There's a lot of context and nuance in that, obviously, but I'm happy to share that one-pager. Sorry to not be there in person to distribute, but happy if folks want to reach out via email, or I can send it through Max or other folks. My email is mayenza, MAENZAJ @danny.nyc.gov. I also wanted to briefly announce the indictment of Joshua Zinberg for the unprovoked slashing of a tourist on West 86th Street. He has been indicted on attempted murder in the second degree, assault in the first degree, and assault in the second degree. Those are all felonies. This was a very horrible, terrifying act of violence, and in the indictment, the DA talks about that and also thanks the 20th Precinct Detective Squad for their work on it. Very quickly, I'm going to talk about our resume workshop. Is going to be February 21st, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. All students will leave with a beautiful new resume. Please feel free to reach out if you would like outreach materials or more information, have young people who may be interested. We'd love to make sure they can attend. Thanks so much and enjoy your meeting.
I have a question for her.
You have one question?
Sure, go ahead.
Hey, Julia, this is Doug Lyman. Just wanted to, as a friendly reminder, looking to circle back with your office to schedule the trespass affidavit training. I know I've been speaking with Eric Straza in your office, and I know that we're working with the bids. So just friendly reminder to, we have some available dates and like to connect with you offline about that.
Great, I'll speak to Eric. He's kind of our guy
Thanks
for
so
all
much.
trespass notices, but I'll definitely circle back with him. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, next, now we have Senator Hoylman-Siegel.
Good evening, everyone. My Zoom says Esther Caroline. That's because Esther Caroline is in the room with you. State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel, good to see everyone. Wanted just to touch on a few things. Obviously, we're in an extraordinary moment in our nation's recent history, and we know that Trump is barreling through our federal and state systems, dismantling protections and coming after the most vulnerable. Just today, as we heard, his administration began sending immigrants to Guantanamo Bay, a horrifying escalation that echoes some of the darkest moments in our nation's history. I really believe New York needs to be a stalwart against this, and my colleagues and I are not going to let up the fight. Sadly and disappointingly, NYU Langone Hospital recently announced it was pausing new appointments for gender-affirming care for patients under 19. That was in response to Trump's executive order. To me, it is obeying in advance, which is unnecessary at this point. I had issued a statement expressing my disappointment in the order, and we'll be working with colleagues on that very front, including making sure that there are Medicaid funds available for parents seeking gender-affirming care for their young children. Earlier this month, I joined the bipartisan pro-choice legislative conference up in Albany to discuss protecting LGBTQ plus and women's rights. And I have a bill that's going to protect abortion and gender transition care patients and providers from out-of-state legal actions, building on action that we took last session. We also rallied in Albany recently to support the Access to Representation Act to ensure legal representation for immigrants in court. And obviously, we need more work in mental health, public safety, keeping our subways safe, making sure our public schools are funded appropriately, and making certain that tenants are protected. And we have all of this in this year's budget that we're negotiating currently. I will be updating you this probably from the confines of my one-star hotel here in Albany. Good to see everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. And then I think our last one is Claire Botnick.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be now, so hopefully the connection is okay. Just wanted to introduce myself as Micah Lasher's Chief of Staff. Micah, unfortunately, is not able to be with us this evening. He was still wrapping up the conference when I left him. I hope that you all will come visit us at 245 West 104th Street in our district office, and look forward to working with the community board going forward. I also wanted to personally invite everyone to NICA's community spring in, which will be on February 13th at 6 p.m. at Booker T up on 108th and between Columbus and Amsterdam. And please don't hesitate to reach out to our office if you have concerns about what's happening in Albany or in the broader context, and look forward to hearing from you and working with you all. Thanks so much.
And I think that concludes the electeds portion, unless there's anyone here in person that we missed, but I don't think we did. If so, just raise your hand. No? Okay. All right, Beverly, back to you.
Thank you. It then is time to run our roll call for the evening. And Michael, would you set things up? If anyone cannot vote by their phone, please make sure you raise your hand so we can get a manual count.
Please don't vote yet. Just everyone bear with me. I'm one person tonight, so it's going to take me a minute to go back and forth between a couple different screens. So if everyone just give me a second, I'll let you know when we can start. Just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Refresh it. Refresh it.
Okay, we're good to start voting now. I'll share the screen in a second.
Okay, vote yes, I assume if you're here. If you're not here, you can't vote no anyway, so just yes.
Yes.
Is there anyone having difficulty registering their vote? Yes, over there. Only board members are voting, right? Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, Sophia, do you have, is that the correct phone number?
I can give it. Is anyone else having issues? This is the way that you get recorded for attendance. So if anyone has issues, please speak up.
The number is 855-646-6695.
What I'm saying.
The correct number. So just type yes in the box and then hit send. And then you'll be recorded as being present.
And you'll notify you.
Yes.
Yes.
Just for the sake of time, I'm going to close in a second and we'll figure out the other two. Are we good down there?
All right, anyone not good?
Sophia, did you get it?
Just Ethel, right? Yes. I will just manually record you for this one. We'll try to figure it out for the next ones. Okay, I'm going to stop the vote.
All right, if Sophia has not registered, please register her manually. We'll work it out later. All right, roll call complete.
Refresh the page when our number's not correct.
Thank you.
Oh, I think Alex just fixed it. Maybe.
All right. Can you just confirm that Sophia she got her vote in? And, but manually if okay, good. All right, thank you. Next, I'd like to ask Natasha Kazmi as head of our elections committee to begin the process of running a vote for tonight for the new position we approved.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first CB7 election of 2025. Tonight, we will be voting for the executive board position of Technology and Communications Officer. The procedures we will follow are stated in sections 3D and 4B within the latest version of the board's bylaws. Here is how the election will unfold tonight. We will first hear from the candidate for this position, and after that, members of the board will have the opportunity to ask questions of him. The board will then vote electronically, and your voting will not be visible to the room. And while we are voting, Max will be around to help anyone with tech issues. So I can see that we have quorum. And I'm going to now ask Alex Bell to come up, and if he has a statement, you can go. Yes. And anybody who has questions should also come up to the mic and ask.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be running for this position, and I hope you'll vote for me. I've been on the board 2 years. I've really enjoyed all the work so far, the voting system, the website, the owls, and things like that. I hope to do more of that in the new position. Some of you have already reached out with ideas, which has been great. I'm happy for all others to reach out with ideas for improving operations, efficiency, things like that. So yes, please vote for me for this new position.
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, yeah.
Thanks very much. You just a short statement, but you quickly said you intend to improve operations. Could you just expand for a couple of seconds? What do you mean by that?
I think just everything that is possible to improve. So ways of improving the full board, ways of making interacting easier for people. I'm really open to all ideas. So if you have ideas or things that annoy you about the board that potentially we could work on together, yeah, feel free to tell me.
Would that include acoustics in this room?
Potentially acoustics, yes. I don't know how we would fix that, but there's a technical solution for everything. So,
Any other questions, either in the room or on the Zoom? Anybody? Okay.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. So if there are any members of the election committee in the room, you can join Michael in the back. And Michael, you should let me know when you're ready. You are ready? Okay. So we have quorum. There's nothing on the screen. Michael is in the back, and we are ready to take the votes. And just to be clear, anybody who votes yes, that is a vote for Alex Bell, just to be very clear. So with that, you can start voting, please.
Well, what are the other choices of voting? She should
Abstain, no.
Yeah, but she should say.
But she didn't, so don't worry about it. Nobody's.
Phone says it's not currently open for.
Try it again.
Try it again.
It voted. It took it.
If you do not receive any acknowledgement, then you should try it again. You may have answered too quickly.
Really?
Try it again.
Yeah, you have connection. Yeah.
Phone it on the others.
Is
Natasha's right there back there.
Natasha, do you have a microphone back there? Okay, maybe we should find out if there's anyone who has had difficulty voting.
Yeah,
and you
is
could-
there anybody who has not been able to vote? Oh, J. Adolf? Anybody on the Zoom who has not been able to vote? And you've tried a couple of times?
Tried 3 times.
All right. So you're not the only one. So what we can do is you can send me an email, I guess, about what your vote is, and then we can adjust it later. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else?
It is, right? I think so. Yeah. Preservation. Then transportation. Yeah. After the meeting, want to update you about a couple of things. If you have a few minutes after the meeting, we'll update you.
Okay, maybe when we're walking, if you're going my way.
Sure.
All right. So I think everybody seems to have voted. If anybody has been unable to vote, this is the time to speak up. I don't see any hands up. So with this, I'm going to declare the voting for the position of Technology and Communications Officer to be over. And I'm very happy to say that Alex Bell has received majority of the votes. So congratulations. And with that, I'm going to close the election for this position for tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you and congratulations, Alex. Moving into the business session, Health and Human Services. Who is handling this one?
Okay,
Shelley.
my last resolution. There's a very important piece of legislation that has been put into action by Brad Wilman-Siegel, our state senator, and Michael Asche, our state assemblyman. And it's called the HELP Act. Now, okay, hold on a second. The fact that there's a mental health crisis in New York State and across the country and just about every place else is something that cannot be denied. And it was, the problem was increased by the reduction of just by one governor of 1,000 hospital beds, but many other institutions, more hospital beds when we really needed more. And therefore, there are two major issues. The HELP Act stands for Harness Expertise of Licensed Professionals Act. And what does that mean? Right now, only psychiatrists, medical psychiatrists, are allowed to do the evaluations. But this would permit psychiatric nurse practitioners, psychologists, and clinical social workers to do these evaluations to prepare people, to enable them to get the services they need. The problem has been that even in the evaluations, how many psychiatrists are there and how many people and who gets access? So this would address that issue. I think it's very important. But we also recognize that once people are evaluated, the psychiatric inpatient beds are not there. So the second part of our resolution is that be attended to at the same time, because it would be a shame to evaluate people and decide that they need certain services and the services aren't there. So it has to be comprehensive. And so we're asking for our legislators and in both houses of state government and for the governor to put together the correct legislation in addition to the HELP Act and to expedite this in the next budget. So, and that is it passed 7-0 at the committee, and we urge your vote.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Shelley? Okay, it does not look that way, so we should call the question and vote. Yes.
Anyone's having issues voting. Anyone having issues voting? Jay, you okay? Jay's good. 10 more seconds. Anyone having issues? Three, two, one. The vote is 36-0-0-0.
Okay, the committee thanks you, and the committee will be co-chaired beginning this month by our current co-chair, Saralee Evans and Ken Coughlin, and let's give them our utmost support both in the committee and in the board.
Thank you, Shelley. Preservation. Adam and or Madge?
Yes. Here. I'm going to do the first one and Adam will do the second. Jesse, do we have slides up, please? This is, I'm going to talk about 222 West 79th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus, which is a commercial street. And they're requesting an enlargement of their penthouse and a change to the storefront sign on the street level. They're both the buildings in the historic district. Do we have any pictures?
I'm sorry, are you waiting to have
for pictures?
Slides.
Yeah, slides.
Give me a second, I'm not, you could go ahead, I'll share it in a second.
Jesse, are the slides available?
Yes, but I'm having a hard time pulling them up.
Okay.
Is there a problem?
Let's give her a moment.
Okay. 222 West 79th Street. No, it's between Broadway and Amsterdam. Sorry, I'm mistaken. It's closer to Broadway. There's a restaurant on the first floor called Mochi, and they want to change the sign on that.
I don't know.
What are we waiting for? Slides.
We're waiting for the slides.
Oh, okay.
Tell me if you want me to go on without the slides. Oh, there's a picture of the sign, the sign in the addition. The addition is the back part of the penthouse and the stairwell inside. None of this is visible from the street. We've approved several of these already, very similar extensions. That's the original, the old pictures of the house, which has had a commercial first floor for a very long time, and it's part of several commercial buildings with first floor restaurants and shops along that block. You can see in yellow the addition that's going up there. Advance it, please. Those are the two additions that are going up. And as I said, not visible from either 79th or 78th Street. That's the several rooftops in the neighborhood which have already been added to. We advance, please. That's the building over the right side of this photo with the white front. And Jesse, would you move up till we have, and there's a picture of, yeah. Keep going, please. Keep going, please. That's the rooftop. And there's the sign. No, I think we need one more to get the new sign. That's the old sign and the new one. They both have flowers. One is two-dimensional, one 3. And the committee voted unanimously that both the side in size and style were appropriate for the block and for the building, and that the rooftop addition was appropriate because it was not visible and it's very similar to others we've approved before and Landmarks has approved. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Call a question. Are we ready to vote?
We can now vote.
Okay, vote on number 1 for, or actually, I guess it's item number 2, which is the vote for 222 West 79th. Again, yes, no, abstain, cause.
And if anyone has any trouble voting, please let me know. We can manually record. Anyone with any issues? Another 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. The vote passes 35-0-0-0.
Your next item?
Excellent. Our next item is 256 West 88th Street. While folks are getting the slides up, the context here, this is an application for legalization of work that was done without a permit. So essentially what happened is this applicant went before Landmarks Preservation. They got a staff level approval to do some work on the front facade, the rear facade, and an addition. That work was completed not to the terms of the permit that they were received. And so what we're discussing tonight is our resolution on whether we should accept and legalize the work that was done not pursuant to the permit. So this is on 88th Street between West End and Broadway. And if we go to the next slide, this is what the building looked like historically. On the left, you can see the oldest photo they were able to find of the building. It is a pretty standard 19th century row house where the first 2 floors were converted to commercial. At some point, it was converted from commercial to this more residential look where you have this small window on the 2nd floor. If we go to the next slide, this is what was built. If you look at the left-hand side, so it has these large 2 glass windows that are protruding out as the initial addition was. Again, this is not built to the permitted spec, but the committee voted 4-2 to support this and legalize this with the understanding that this is something that we would have supported if it had come before our committee as it is now. And if we just look at the final slide, just for context, this shows the differences in terms of the rear addition and the top floor addition from what was permitted versus actually built. I will note that in this case, none of this is visible from any public right of way. So it not being built to permit was seen as less of an issue. Yes.
What would be the effect of a no vote?
The effect of a no vote would be signaling to Landmarks Preservation Commission that what was built is unacceptable for this historic district and that it would not have been approved by this board if it had been proposed as built.
The second part, and what if they agree, what effect would that have?
If they agree that this work is not acceptable, then it will probably get moved back to staff, and staff will work with the applicant to come up with necessary changes, to come back forward with a plan for changes to the building to make it acceptable to the historic district. I'm going to come back to you and just go in order that I saw the hands.
Did you discuss in committee the precedential effect of a yes vote? Or did you feel that was outside the scope of your committee work, given that the work had already been done?
The way the committee chose to discuss it was or in general, that if this had come before us, how would we have voted it on the first instance? We did not think about what precedent it sets in terms of work being done unauthorized. There are violations on the building already. So personally, I think that's less of an issue. the applicant is already dealing with that complication.
The vote for this is a vote both for the frontage and the roof and rear work, correct? It's not divided in any way.
That is correct. That is how we drafted the resolution, considering that nothing on the rear is visible.
Is it,
I'm sorry, go
do we know why the work was done outside of what was previously approved? Is there any context to this?
According to the architect, and of course, none of this is necessarily true or false, but what the architect said when we asked was that the person, the developer of this building, the person who owned it, was dealing with a bunch of other things and was inadequately supervising the general contractor. So didn't know that work was not being done to the permits until they received the violations from Landmarks Preservation Commission.
I'm just wondering, from my recollection, if this was the same building where Mike's lumber store was. And if so, I seem to remember that they did come to our board for something on the storefront. Just, do we know if that's the same property?
I believe that is the property that is directly west of this one.
Next door.
So it's my understanding there are current violations and the owner is in the process of curing those violations.
The way that those violations would be cured would be by having this work permitted by LPC, and that our resolution is saying that CB7 accepts this work and suggests that LPC give a certificate of appropriateness to this work, legalizing this work that was done not in accordance with the permit that was granted.
Thank you.
I have a problem with this one because I live on 88th Street and I walk my dog there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
hold it.
And I've watched it go downhill is the only way to describe it. There was a lot of original material there that they could have used and done, and I don't know why they just kept chipping away. The windows don't look right. The doors don't operate perfect, in a purposeful way to help. This step 10 steps up to sort of hide another apartment up there. Sorry, I'm just, what defeats me about this is our committee went, looked at it, gave recommendations, talked to the people, and they just went ahead and did whatever the hell they wanted. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but what's the point of having a preservation and these beautiful buildings being sort of gussied up, and then, they don't fit. They don't look right. So I'm one that is going to be a stickler that they should at least go back and try to find a way to make that building fit the street. That's the whole point. I mean, they did all this work and gussied it up completely the wrong way. Sorry, but I can't sanction.
Just to clarify, I believe you're talking about the building to the west. This building, the one we're discussing, had no original material and did not come before our committee previously because it was a staff level approval. So just to clarify, the work that was done is not at all in line with the permit, but this is not something that our committee or our board has weighed in on previously.
Yeah, I would second what Adam said, and I apologize if everybody knows this, but the condition of both of these buildings with the commercial storefront, that's the condition that existed going back God knows how many years, and that's the condition that it was in when the historic district was created and designated. So this is not a question of whether we are approving the conversion of these brownstones into a partial commercial buildings. That's that's the way they are and that's the way they were designated. And I second what Adam said about original materials and so forth. This was a commercial storefront, frankly, was a mess. And the changes that they made from what was approved, in my opinion, were very minimal. And if you looked at it in comparison, you could barely tell the difference. So whatever design was originally approved, I feel this is virtually the same in terms of appearance, and that it should be permissible within this context.
I won't belabor the point any longer. I just want to say that I'm personally going to vote no on this one. I think it's a total affront to the process that the architect says that they didn't have the bandwidth or the attention to monitor the contractor. I mean, that's a ridiculous excuse. I think anyone that's done any work in New York City knows how difficult and laborious any process is to get anything done. It's an unacceptable answer. I don't care that the changes are minor from what was approved, or if no knock to the committee. I appreciate you looking at this and thinking about it in terms of what may you have suggested in a vacuum, but we're not looking at it in a vacuum. The context is important here. This is clearly an affront to the process. This is someone who has money, who wants to do what they want to do, and will, ask for forgiveness and not permission. And so I think for that reason, I have to vote no, and I encourage everyone to do so as well.
Yes, I just in fairness, the architect who is now hired was not the architect at the time. They hired a separate architect to deal with the fact that so just to protect that architect's reputation.
Fair enough.
It seems like we have one final comment or a couple final comments. I'm going to go people who haven't spoken yet.
With all respect to the other architects in this room, I would just like to say that we do not necessarily control either the owner or the contractor. In fact, we rarely have control over the owner and the contractor. They pay our bill. That's nice if they pay our bill. But simply to say the architect has control over the process is a fiction. Okay.
Also an architect with some thoughts, but I think that it's an interesting question about, when I was on the committee, we also saw some people who are asking for permission to approve things that had been built. So I think there's an interesting question being asked here. My issue with it is if there was a hardship, for instance, they uncovered a structural issue that had to be remediated, and therefore they needed to do a change that wasn't approved, I think I would approve of that. But we haven't been given evidence that there was some kind of hardship, something structural or otherwise necessary that required that they make a change mid-process. And so as a result, I don't know if I can approve of this. It feels like there was a process. They then ignored the process and are now asking for permission to approve what had been built. So I will say in the future, if something happens, there's a structural issue, something else happens that requires that we consider approving of something, I would be open to that, but I don't think in this context it's appropriate.
Yeah, I apologize if everybody knows this, but I think we have to understand what the process is here. I chaired this committee, or co-chaired it, for 7 years, and I've been on it for all the 14 years that I've been on the community board. None of us like to approve work that was done in violation of the original approvals, but it happens periodically. And our charge from the Landmarks Commission has always been to approach this as if it were a first application. And that's mostly because of practical considerations. The work is done. If it was horribly non-conforming, that would be a different issue. But in this case, it's virtually the same design. There was very slight deviations in terms of the width of some of the frames and so forth. It's absolutely de minimis, but it's important to understand that as much as we don't like to approve projects that are in violation, this is what Landmarks does, this is the way they evaluate it, so this is the way we have to evaluate it.
Jay, just,
I think if for those who've already spoken, perhaps we should move on, unless there are new people who have
I
remarks.
just agree with everything Jay just said. In addition to which, this was not a pristine brownstone that's been restored to, 1925. It's something that was corrupted years ago. So.
I'll call the question.
Okay.
Voting is open.
Voting is open on this item.
No, that's your phone.
Voting is open.
All right, last call. I think we have all the votes, but anyone have any issues? Oh, 1 second.
No.
Right. 3, 2, 1. The final vote is 24-11-1.
The motion, I'm sorry, the vote carries. And with that, I'd like for the Transportation Committee to present their items.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome Jami, who will be our chair starting in March officially, but we're going to be the three of us co-chairing for the February meeting, full board meeting, or this is the February full board meeting. For the March full board meeting, Jami and I will be. So welcome, Jami, and thank you again, Andrew. I know we've mentioned it more than once, but you will still be our MTA guru, and we just can't even speak to how valuable your service has been. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Just a clarification at the beginning. We actually have 2 resolutions tonight and not 3. I want to be clear that the clarification deals with the left turn resolution, which we did not make it through committee. It's listed. You'll hear more about it later this year, hopefully sooner rather than later. It's a follow-up to a resolution we had passed in 2021 related to left turns and the dangers that they pose. That resolution went unanswered, response went unanswered by DOT. So we're following up with a letter that the committee will review, and we will present in person to the DOT at an in-person meeting, hopefully later this month. So with that in mind, we're going to go, I don't know for the secretaries for recording the votes, how we want to proceed with the plastic bollards vote.
Yeah, I'm just going to list it as Transportation 1.
Transportation 1. Okay,
Yeah.
so Transportation 1 will be the plastic bollard placement. So again, this deals with obviously an issue that a lot of us have seen in the neighborhood, which are those white flexible bollards. Thank you to Howard for bringing it to the attention of the committee and to the board, where we feel that based on a lot of anecdotal and statistical evidence that other cities are using more durable posts, we feel like there needs to be sturdier means to separate street traffic. So our resolution calls for the city to stop using the flexible white bollards. They're particularly noticeable along the bike lanes in the neighborhood, and instead use more durable posts to separate street traffic.
And I have seen at least 2 or 3 people fall because they're broken over and you don't see them at night, and they should be straight up and down. They shouldn't be across the walkway. So they're really dangerous. It's long past time that we do something about it.
So it passed. Yeah, questions, Miranda?
You need, do you want to go to the microphone if you?
At the committee, it passed 10-0 to 1-0, and non-committee was 1-0 to 0-0. Kevin.
I like this. I just wanted to make one addition where it says the city should cease using flexible belts. I should say should immediately cease to give it a little bit more definition in terms of time. That's the only change I'm recommending.
I think we're friendly. That's fine.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, I see the problem with the plastic bollards, but I'm just curious, what are the other alternatives that you have in mind when you say something more permanent? And do we have like an example of them?
Mike, you need a mic.
They're a more metallic substance. They don't bend. They're lightweight, but they cannot be knocked over and fall into the path. Other cities use these kinds of bollards. They're widespread across in many US cities. But I know at least 10 locations where ours are caved over and people are tripping on them. And I've reported it to other community boards as well.
Howard, did you have?
Mike. Howard, you need a microphone?
No, people at home.
People at home can't hear you otherwise.
Just put up something that is not going to go horizontal and be a tripping hazard. Other cities have it. So again, I say this at every meeting. We pay high taxes because there are experts out there who know what will work. I don't know what will work, but I do know that those horizontal plastic bollards are real tripping hazards. And there's another thing, aesthetics. They always get incredibly dirty. And then when they do go on the ground horizontally, then you can't even see them. So they need to be replaced with something.
There are also things called armadillos, which are kind of rubber things. You can see we actually have them at Union Square East and separating the bike lane from traffic there. And they're on the ground and they look like these little armadillos on the ground. They work great too.
That's why we added in the more durable posts, which exist.
Yeah, just that committee. I agree. These things are problematic and they snap, and just to possibly be overly technical. I mean, they were saying more durable. Ironically, it actually might be more flexible, so they don't snap. And also I am aware that the armadillos sound like a great idea, but also the visual cue, a driver has to see it. So there's got to be a vertical to it, at least in some, I mean, the DOT says, like on a turning lane on Amsterdam Avenue, they're up on top of the concrete so that the driver can see that there's a concrete barrier. And I've noticed that when those things have snapped and aren't there, cars sometimes go up onto and bottom out. So anyway, I'm totally in support of this resolution. I just wanted to be clear. Ironically, it might be more flexible and not more rigid, so it doesn't snap.
Okay. Are no more comments? We should begin our vote.
We can vote now. Voting's live. Apologies for not sharing the last vote, sharing my screen. Anyone having any issues voting before we close? Yep. Yep, no problem. Okay. I think we're going to close the vote now. We'll stop the vote. Final vote 35010.
Great, thank you. Our last resolution regards the West Side Institutional Synagogue at 120 West 76th Street. A representative from the synagogue came to our committee meeting very surprised. The no parking and no standing signs that were previously in front of the synagogue were removed one day, and regular alternate side parking was put up in its place. And this does not allow folks with disabilities to have good access to the synagogue. It doesn't allow accessoride vehicles to access the synagogue. Everybody was surprised. We had DOT on our conversation during the meeting, and they were as surprised as we were. And so they asked us to take a resolution to restore what had been there, and that is the resolution that is before you now, to restore the no parking, no standing, which will allow folks with disabilities and other people who need accessible entrance to the synagogue, access to the synagogue. And we had a pretty unanimous vote on that. And that is the resolution before you now.
Call the question.
1 second.
We should open the vote.
Okay, voting is live now.
No Gail tonight.
All right, any issues before I close? 3, 2, 1. Okay, 34-0-1-0 final vote.
Thank you. That concludes the business session. Does anyone wish to bring forward any old or new business? Max? Oh, well, that's certainly important.
Yes.
Council member, can you come forward to the microphone? I didn't either.
Thank you very much, Board 7. A few things. One is that we had a children's book fair and we had 10,000 books with JCC. And it was wonderful and a lot of in Spanish. So people were very appreciative and we still have more left. So people want to come to our district office on sunny days. We put them out and people take them. It's really special how much New Yorkers, West Siders donated. And I have to say that the Church of Latter-day Saints gave thousands of new books, brand new books. So congratulations to our neighborhood. Number 2, this, and Andrew knows this alternate side of the street parking is a problem. So on 83rd Street, which is more of a commercial block, we've gotten the police department and the sanitation department to work together. So every first Saturday of every month, we put out leaflets. 20 precinct puts out signs and the sweeper comes through and it seems to work. Fire department, post office, cars from the rental places. But for regular New Yorkers, it ain't working. So we got to figure out maybe together. I know Andrew's block, my block is complaining like crazy. Some of the council members want to increase the fines dramatically. That's an idea, but I think people should move their cars. So just so you know, I'm going to keep working with, see if I can get the police department to put signs up. That seems to work. That's no joke. When it says, police department says, do not park on this particular day. So I'll just let you know, I'm trying to figure that out. It's very, very frustrating. We are getting tons of complaints. I'm sorry, DOT, about out of working, meaning repair streetlights. We had all of Columbus Avenue was out at one point, et cetera. So we have volunteers. I don't know why people want to volunteer to survey streetlights, but they do. So they're surveying streetlights and we're going to figure out what's out and what's not out. But if you have ones that are out, let us know. I do want to thank for a quick minute. We got extra cops for the 2-0 and the 2-4, but it was for a quick minute because then they got pulled to transit. I'm going to do the best I can to pull them back from transit as soon as transit is over. Sounds like the transit is working. The government will put money in, fine, but I wish they hadn't taken our brand new recruits, but they did. So just so you know, I'm on the case because it made a huge difference having that police presence on a regular basis. I know that e-bikes is on everybody's mind. I hate even talking about it. But I can tell you that there is discussion now with a bill that the mayor's office has come up with. It hasn't been totally worked out, but it does look like we're going to put more focus on the apps, which is where it should be. I don't know how the registration is going to work out, but just so you know, it's very much front and center in terms of discussion. Barzinis, oh my God. To make a long story short, we all love Barzinis, but we don't love rats. And so it was about a 12-page listing of rats and moldy food. Long story short, we called the agriculture and markets of the state. That's who you call when you see these atrocities. And they came in, did an inspection. The gentleman did not want to close, but he's now closed. His next court date is February 6th. There's a judge involved. And I don't know between Ag and Markets and the judge what the next step is. But the bottom line is Ag and Markets is going to have to do a lot of surveys to see that this is in fact a clean shop. It's been quite a dramatic because people are upset with me. I don't mind eating mice in my food if it's Barzini's. But I do mind, Gail Brewer does mind eating mice in my food. So if people love the store so much that they don't mind that. On the other hand, people do realize that it's not healthy. So I just want to let you know we're working on it. Number 2, newspaper man Sadiq at 79th Street and Broadway. Remember, he closed because he sold items that he was not supposed to. And so the newsstand closed. He is now set to reopen. And I have to give him credit. There has been a lot. The neighborhood really came through. A woman who is an attorney in one of the big law firms is pro bono. She's been his godsend to get him through this whole process. But it sounds like he's going to come back. I just want to let you know that that's happening. We're all working on Sanctuary City. There are lots of groups, as you know, who have come forward and said these are the rules. Obviously, this church, thank you, Reverend Carpin, is the best perhaps in the whole city for welcoming people and putting up the signs and giving people information. Thank you, Reverend Carpin. But yeah, he deserves a round. He really does deserve a round of applause. But in general, we're all working. And I must admit, there is a something that I discovered, which is if you are not 21, you're undocumented, you are here without papers. But if somebody like me goes to court with a legal aid attorney representing that person and says that I will be the guardian, that person doesn't get deported. So just so you know, that is a process. So guess what? I've got a whole bunch of them that I'm the guardian for. Let's hope it goes well. The other issue is I am very focused for 20 years on places like schoolyards that are closed on the weekends and the summer, like PS9. It's so frustrating. People call me, why can't we open it? Because there are some playgrounds, obviously 70th Street at 199, 87, PS 87. So the mayor, much to my shock, when he did his state of the city, said, oh, we should open the playgrounds. I said, where the hell did you get that idea from? He said me, I think he's full of it. I don't think he did. But anyway, the city council's now interested in it. We're going to have a hearing on it. And we hope that some of these more playgrounds could be open. Right now, you have to be more than 10 minutes from a park, which kind of eliminates some of our playgrounds. But I think even if you're not 10 minutes, you should be open, but you have to pay the custodian. So that's where the money comes in, just so you know. West Park Presbyterian Church, that is always a challenge, but right now, the amazing cultural opportunities there are phenomenal. Debbie Hirschman is amazing. We have the money to take the scaffolding off and fix the roof, but we need permission from the owner, and the owner does not want to give us permission. So we're working on it. We met with the mayor's office at the highest levels, and I think they want to help us, but there are certain legal constraints. That's the short version of a mess, but we're working on it. I want to say also, I know that and I know this is controversial, but the Bell Nord issue is of what should go in that commercial space is going to come before the City Planning Commission soon. So I just want to let you know. And then we're all working on Thank you very much. ABC, which hasn't moved yet, but I know that we are going to keep talking about it. It's not something that I want to say much about right now, but there is an issue. 1972 Broadway. So I talked to the New York City Department of Education. This is the vacant child care center on 66 and Broadway. So they said, Gail, there are three alternatives. One, infant toddler care. I said, fine, but you're not supposed to go to the second floor. They said, maybe we can get a waiver from the Department of Buildings and the Department of Health. I said, okay. Number two, as you know, for early childhood education, we have a lot of slots on the west side, but zero for those with disabilities. So, and that's a huge, huge need. And three, they want to give up the lease. So they're thinking about those three. If you have ideas, I know that you've been thinking about it in your committee, but I just talked to them yesterday. So that's what they have told us so far, just so you know. I said, well, I think I would prefer to have the toddler, but early childhood education for those with disabilities would be great. For God's sake, stop paying the, having a vacant space and paying the rent. So that's also going on. I want to just mention that in our committee on oversight hearings, we have had one on 9/11, believe it or not, for 20 years, 23 years. Carolyn Maloney, Adler, and the new congressman have pushed for what did the city know on 9/11? And they've gotten no answer. We know what the Fed said, but we don't know what the city knew. And this is a real concern for many people who would like to know what the city knew. Giuliani was the mayor at the time, and those records have never been, despite foils and letters and press conference, they've never been displayed. So we found out in the charter of the city of New York, it says that the Department of Investigation, which I oversee in my committee, could be mandated if the city council passes a law to look to investigate something that you feel should be investigated. So we're trying to pass a law. We had a hearing that says the City Department of Investigation should do the research and do a report on what the city knew on 9/11. So that's also happening. And then we also would like to have some strength for the Inspector General of the Police Department. Upcoming, very quickly, we have a town hall with different city agencies and Wynton Marsalis on February 24th at Ethical Culture at 6. We're doing tree clinics, Community Recycling Day coming up, and bike helmet for children. Lots of bike helmets and bike information to be given away. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's a question. I don't know if you.
Gail, I just want you to know that your letters and calls have made a big difference in the ability of sanitation to clean streets. The sanitation officers now precede the sweeper down the streets and make sure cars move, and that has made quite a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Thank you for everyone for indulging this question. City Hall lobbying bill. Would you say a word about that?
Sure, there are a couple of them. The Lincoln Ressler is head of the Governmental Affairs Committee. And he, I think, has passed or will pass a bill that basically says, and mostly he hates the mayor. So he always has bills that sort of focus on the mayor, to be honest with you. And this one, I think, says that you cannot have but a certain amount of time to lobby. In other words, if you take a new job, right, you can only have, I think it's just a couple of years to be able to go back to your old colleagues. Used to be a year. He's increased the time on that. So that's basically what it is. Go ahead.
It just applies to the mayor's office, right? Not to the council.
Right, which is also controversial all by itself. We have another one that's even got more challenging, which says if you are a campaign consultant, then you cannot also be a real estate consultant with the same person. But that hasn't passed yet. Apparently that's way too controversial. So we're trying to see what we can amend it so it will pass.
Thank you, Gail.
Okay, anybody else? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Linda? Linda, you need a microphone. No, you do, because the people can't hear you.
I've just been apprised, one of the unintended consequences of congestion pricing for our neighborhood, for the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side, will be the proliferation of e-cargo bikes. And that's saying because they are the bikes that are going to be going up to the box cars for deliveries down into Midtown, et cetera, to avoid congestion pricing. There are no accommodations being made for these e-cargo bikes, which of course use lithium ion batteries. So that's something that we should have to heads up and be aware of moving forward.
DOT is mandated to do a study, so we should be in touch with the DOT. 18 months from the January 5th, which is when it started, they have to do a study about all the applications. Andrew knows more about this than I do, that could be detrimental or positive as a result of congestion pricing. So we should add that. I know residential parking is on the list. Yes, no. South Bronx, all these other places where there could be impact, but we should add that to the list, Andrew. I don't know how you do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I hear a motion to adjourn. Has it been seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, good timing. That's the earliest that we finished the board meeting.
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Since I've been on the.
Well, it used to routinely be 10:30, so